Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Suci Indah from PBIC class. Therefore, he states that language perception occurs in four stages, including the first perception stage, stage for noticing sound elements, phonological stress, intonation from auditory input. The second, word recognition stage or stage for identifying word when perceiving the sound from the auditory input. The third, parsing stage or stage for identifying sentence when receiving the sound from the auditory input. And last, interpretation stage or stage for understanding meaning from the interpretation of the auditory input. What Warren P. states about the four stages of language perception is consistent with the opinion of Fontenay et al. They are of the view that language perception or language comprehension has a structure that they call a model. The model consists of four processes experienced by human mind when it receives auditory input in their social interaction with each other. The four processes are speech processing, lexical processing, sentential processing, as well as discourse processing. Number 2. Therefore, he states that language perception occurs in four stages, including the first, perception stage or stage for noticing sound elements, phonological stress, intonation from auditory input. The second, word recognition stage for identifying word when receiving the sound from the auditory input. And the third, parsing stage for identifying sentence when perceiving the sound from the auditory inputs. Last, interpretation stage for understanding meaning from the interpretation of the auditory input. What Warren P. states about the first stage of language perception is consistent with the opinion of Fontenay and et al. They are of the view that language perception or language comprehension has a structure that they call as a model. The model consists of four process experienced by human mind when it receives auditory input in their social interaction with each other. The four processes are speech processing, lexical processing, sentential processing, as well as discourse processing. Yes, because according to Fontenay et al., Weber A. Scarenborg also argue that spoken word recognition is a complicated mental process. According to them, there are at least three factors that cause this complexity, including the first, many words sound similar or resemble to each other. The second, speech or pronunciation varies greatly. The quality of speech production by each person is very different from one another depending on speaking style, speaking rate of delivery. Phonological knowledge is temporary and continuous, which means that when someone speaks, the speech convey will fade away immediately after the speech is conveyed. Besides, speech can also be expressed continuously from a sequence of speech sound to another without any clear boundaries depending the duration of speaking time that the person needs. Number 4. First, the phrase, the initial lexical contact, the spoken word recognition process began when auditory input that has been segmented phonological and phonologically makes initial contact with the mental lexicon or stored word in the mind. The second, the phrase of selection. The next mental process occurs is that the mind carry out a selection process to determine the most relevant and appropriate word to represent the auditory input previously perceived. The selection process is conducted by the mind in several ways. For example, distinguishing between one word to the other. The third, the phrase of integration. In this phrase, the mind works to combine the word chosen through the selection process with the interpretation of the meaning in the auditory input. The combination of relevant words with the interpretation of meaning is called word recognizing, by which the words are recognized. This is the final goal of lexical processing, in which the auditory input have been matched with the stored knowledge of lexical entries, matching in terms of linguistic aspect, such as the phonological, syntactical, semantical, and pragmatic aspect of the speech sound. Number 5. Parsing in this context can be viewed as a process of assembling words that have been recognized in the perception stage and assigning meaning attribute to the series of words so that auditory input can be understood as sentence with syntactic structure and semantic representation. Call this kind of process as syntactic parsing. For this reason, explain that at the sentence processing stage, conceptual representation of sentence are formed using two types of knowledge level, namely level of articulatory encoding knowledge and level of linguistic encoding knowledge. Number 6. The interpretation stage can be defined as a process where the mind is able to show understanding of the speech heard when communicating. In this regard, argue that interpretation is taking place when the mind researches the semantical aspect of speech. Stage that interpretation refers to the process of replacing the meaning in speech of a target language to gain comprehension, are of the opinion that whether mind is working for comprehending language product or such as speech or text, it means that mind is doing discourse processing. Number 7. Sparks, GR, and Rep DN specially state that the mental process that occurred in discourse processing can be explained using the three-parted model. The model describes three levels of discourse processing. Namely, the first, the most basic level, is the full-phase level. At this level, the mind collects words based on phonological aspect, and the second, the next level is the proportional level. At this level, the mind encodes the underlying meaning of language. This involves understanding meaning in a morphosyntactic order by connecting prior knowledge of context with linguistic context. The third level is the situational or mental level. At this level, the mind has success in inferring the meaning in speech effectively by combining all linguistic knowledge and discourse context in auditory input. This level provides the acquisition of successful comprehension. The last answer the question. Therefore, he states that language perception occurs in four stages, including the first perception stage, stage for noticing sound elements, phonological stress, intonation from auditory input. The second, word recognition stage, or stage for identifying word when perceiving the sound from the auditory input. The third, parsing stage, or stage for identifying sentence when receiving the sound from the auditory input. And last, interpretation stage, or stage for understanding meaning from the interpretation of the auditory input.